What's up, guys? It's Drew back from the Money Is Show. And today I have a special guest. He's special because he's 6'10". He's officially the tallest guy I've interviewed on the show so far. Second to a great friend of mine, Andy Tanner, which crazy enough he knows because tall people hang out together. But he's got a couple inches on height on Andy Tanner as well. Professional basketball player overseas and moved into real estate. Done over 300 transactions. We'll dive into how do you build your real estate business? How do you grow that real estate business? Should you be into real estate or should you be into something else? How do you, my favorite words, how do you move money? We'll ask Adam all these questions today on the Money Is Show from Denver, Colorado. Adam, thanks for being on the show, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Great to be here.
Nice little flight.
Easy flight, 45 minutes.
Snow to snow.
Yeah, it's like I'm in Denver.
Yeah,
closer to the
funny.
mountains.
Literally, 2 days ago, I flew from Salt Lake to LA. Awesome. Like, we were in a snowstorm, landed in t-shirt weather, and then it was a one-day flight, and then got right back that night, landed back in snow, and it was horrible again. I'm not from the snow weather. I'm from Atlanta, Florida, and there's like no freaking snow. So the first time was cool. And it was like, this
ready
sucks.
to be over with.
Yeah. But you had an easy flight, snow to snow, 45-minute flight from Denver. What got you to Denver?
Basketball. Went to college, University of Denver.
Okay.
I grew up all over the place, but
So it wasn't hometown, was Denver?
no. So when I was 15 years old, my mother and I moved from California to Iowa.
Okay.
So went from a city
That's
of
a unique move.
3 million people to 30,000 people.
Yeah.
3 years of high school in Iowa. Started playing basketball. Goal was to get back as far west as I could, back to warm weather.
Yeah.
And
Less cows.
took me to Denver. I went to Denver in March. It was 70 degrees and sunny, and I'm like,
oh, this is great.
this beats Illinois, this beats Iowa, this beats Missouri, all the other places I was looking at. So
That's how I
ended up
Denver.
there. And
Did you get a scholarship there?
yeah.
For University of Denver basketball. You played basketball there. I'm assuming was the dream idea, like most kids, perhaps for me it was, to grow up to become a major league or professional basketball player.
Exactly. So I got started in basketball late. Like
Okay.
I said, I moved to Iowa at 15. I'm 6'5".
Okay.
Weigh 150 pounds at the time. I'm walking down the hallway.
Like Bobo, man.
Yeah, exactly.
All height and no muscle.
I think he probably has more muscle than I had at the time. But so walking down the hallway in October, first day of school.
Yeah.
Get a tap on my shoulder. Look around, basketball coach. He's like, "Hey, do you play basketball?" I'm like, "No, why?" He goes, "Do you want to play basketball?" I'm like, I didn't know anybody.
Yeah.
I'm like, "Sure, why not?" So he's like, "All right, we're having an open gym." And started off like anything else, the worst player on the team, but kept working.
Sure.
By the time senior year, didn't hurt that I grew to 6'10", but I was also
5 more inches.
I was also 190 pounds.
Okay.
So grew 6'10", got
Yep.
a basketball scholarship, ended up out there. And as I progressed, it became to where there was the opportunity for me to go play overseas. I wasn't good enough to get drafted into the NBA.
Okay.
Went to some camps for CBA at the time. Actually came out to Utah for a camp that the Jazz were putting on. But that led into overseas opportunities. So bounced around overseas, between overseas and the U.S. for 4 years. Went over to China. Came back, actually met my wife while I was playing in Canada.
Okay.
Went and played one more year overseas. And it became to be, I knew a lot of people, like, you made okay money.
Right.
But not life-changing money. So it's like, how long do I want to keep doing this? I could be 40 years old and only maybe saved a few $100,000 in the bank. So I didn't want to be that person. Like I said, met my wife, Enos. Her and I were trying to keep a long-distance relationship going. She was living in Canada. I was living in Belgium. It was like that wasn't going to work, so ended up moving back to Denver, trying to figure out what the next step of life was going to be.
So I want to ask you this question. Talk about success and so forth and failure, right? You had this dream. I mean, I go back to myself for a second. I had a dream of Major League Baseball because I'm not 6'10". I'm 5. Well, on my dating profile, I'm 5'10". Okay, I'm really 5'9". But very quickly realized basketball was not going to be it for me. And then I thought, oh, dude, my grandfather played Major League Baseball. I'm going to go the baseball route. Enjoyed it, played it, went up, like you. And then sooner or later, it kind of hits you like, this dream I think is dead. Like I'm not, you know, you go from like the best on your team, the best in this division, the league, you know, you start, and then you realize like, but at some point you're like, I went from like the best to like the worst. Like I can't even be on the court right now or the field, right? My question to you is, when you're driven to be the best that you can in the sport, and then eventually it kind of hits you like, hey, that dream is not reality anymore.
It's dead.
Right? It's dead. And you have to have this massive shift of career, family, like everything in your life is going to shift basically to a whole new prospect. When you give up that dream, how do you birth that new dream at a freaking, now you're older in life. Like when you're younger, it's easier to have these like crazy dreams. Oh, I'm going to be an astronaut, right? Now you're whatever, I don't know how old, 25, 26, I don't know how old you were when you stopped playing.
26.
26? It's a little bit harder now to go create like a new dream, if you will. Like you're not a
with
kid
it.
anymore, right?
Yeah, I struggled with it.
How do you do that? How do you create that new dream? New
So
vision?
it honestly took me a decade.
Really?
You know, I quit playing basketball. I didn't know what the next step was.
Okay.
You know, I went to what they say, a great school, great education, but I didn't necessarily want to go I didn't want to go sit behind a computer every day, work on spreadsheets, use my finance degree at the time.
Oh, that was your degree, was finance, okay.
So I honestly, through a friend of mine from basketball, he's like, hey, I just got this job with this company. They got a good little management training program. I'm like, all right, I don't know what I'm going to do next, so I'll go do that. And then that led to kind of starting at the bottom and progressing through the company into management, sales management, running a region for specific portions of the business. So I had success there, so it was feeding the competitive side, but I wasn't happy.
Yeah.
And I wasn't living a dream or chasing a dream. It was, I was doing what I was taught to do as a kid in my family. Go to school, go get a job, work that job, move up, stay there for 40, 50 years, retire, hopefully have some money in the bank. But that wasn't me. It had to change, and it took me a long time. So it took me going from Denver market, Colorado Springs to Portland, all these different areas kind of searching for something.
While on this corporate job.
Yeah, within
Okay.
the corporate job, having success there, but not really being happy, not fulfilling my life. I always had an interest in construction and houses, and even the customers I dealt with were custom home builders. They built apartment complexes, so I was around that within my corporate job. They gave me the freedom to basically run it as my own business. I was making money, and it got to the point where I was making somebody else a lot more money than I was making, and it was controlling all my time.
Yeah.
So it kind of naturally, the interest in construction, looking to do something on my own, looking to something I can control my time, build a legacy for my family is what led me into real estate. It just took a while to get there because I was dealing with, you know, things on the family side of, hey, this is what you're supposed to do. Everybody's telling me you're having success, like you have a great life, you're doing this and this and this. And I didn't know how to overcome that part of the failure on the basketball side. What the basketball side taught me how to do was to chase something and go build success, work hard, and that's what I was doing in my corporate job, but it wasn't fulfilling me.
So I want to go back here because I want to talk to you about this point. I don't think I've ever talked about this on the show yet, which is as an entrepreneur, and my belief, and I'll ask you this question as well, my belief is that you are born with entrepreneur attributes. And I'm not saying that every person that starts a business was born an entrepreneur, because some inherited a business and kind of molded into it and took it over from another person. But I think entrepreneurs, there's parts of us that are born entrepreneurs. I'd like to know your thoughts on that in a second. Do you feel like you're born an entrepreneur or anybody can become an entrepreneur? That's one question I want to ask you. But mainly I want to go back in this 10 years here, because the point that I have never talked about on the show before is most people, I think, grow up in a home that has, like what you were talking about, get a job, go to school, get a 401k, retire for 40 years, and hopefully you've made enough money to live before you die, right? And I think I struggled with it massively when I was going through it, because you're kind of going against your whole family.
Sure.
You're going against your parents and teachers and like your Sunday school teacher, like everybody that you've ever had influence on your life as a kid was for the most part down that path.
Right.
And everything you know is about down that path. And to me, there's this big emotional struggle that I don't think we talk enough about for entrepreneurs, of like cutting ties with family to a certain degree. And you feel like you're turning your back on them. I want to talk about what that experience was like for you during those maybe 10 years there. So 2 questions. 1, are you born entrepreneur or not? And then 2, let's talk about this journey and how does someone who's maybe facing this journey right now of the fact they can't get out there, what was some advice you'd give them of how don't take 10 years? Here's some things you need to do first. 2 questions there, go with it.
So on the first side, if you're born with it, I've actually never thought of it that way. But
Okay.
if, as you're asking that question, I'm going back in my mind and going, okay, from the time I was in 6th grade getting a paper route,
That's my point.
I've worked and gone out and done my own thing. You know, moving places without having to make friends, having to go out and generate business, friendships. Like there's a part of that that's always been in my life.
It's just almost a natural thing for you.
Yeah.
It's a natural thing for me, right? When I go out to dinner with people, like I was out recently with a guy with his birthday party, and I knew nobody there except for him. But that was irrelevant to me. By the time I left, like I was there to meet everybody, and it was a natural conversation for me to go have, where other people like struggle with all those things you just mentioned right there. That's why I think there's parts of you that are born with this natural kind of personality, DNA that creates this entrepreneur.
And then it's, how do you foster that and grow that and continue down the path? Because when you say that, I'm sitting here thinking about it and comparing myself to, say, my business partner or friends of mine. They're uncomfortable doing some of the things that I'm very comfortable doing. They would say entrepreneurs, but there's certain parts that people struggle with that I find natural. So, hey, good point.
That's what I think.
You are born, or your personality.
There's pieces of it.
Pieces of it that it's more natural for you to take that path that, at the end of the day, especially starting out, like, it's a lot of damn work.
Again,
why would you go do it?
I interview so many successful entrepreneurs, and I'm just telling you, like, all of them have like, oh yeah, I did a paper out here. Oh, I started this like freaking business when I was 12 years old because I thought it was like it's just like this conversation always happens.
Right.
And that's why I think it's like proving my point, which I've always had this belief that you're kind of born with this natural, like my parents, 0 risk.
Yeah.
They don't even want to acknowledge like taking a risk with investing or anything. And here I come along and I'm like, risk is just part of my life and I'm totally okay with it. Like my dad was like, dude, how can you sleep at night? I'm like, I just lay down. I go to sleep. I don't know, how do you go to sleep? But for other people, they just don't have that same kind of ability there, if you will.
So to go then piggyback on the second part of your question, that 10 years was me trying to fit back into the box of how I was raised, and my grandparents had probably the biggest influence on me, other than my mother. I was raised single mother, only child. So my grandparents, born in the 20s, again, go to school. I was the first one to go get a college degree in my family.
Yeah.
Now, why the hell are you overseas playing basketball? Like, you're supposed to finish college, go get a job.
Career. Yeah.
So then, I'd go spend summers with them, hang out. Well, what are you doing now? I don't know. Well, where are you going to go play next? Well, it's June. Season starts in September. I'll start fielding phone calls. I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
But then when I got done and didn't know what to do, like by default it was, oh, you're supposed to go get a job, work your way up. So that 10 years, if I'm talking to other people in that same thing, especially as you're younger, go chase your dream, take that risk before you have that amount of responsibility. Before, I had a wife and 3 kids,
right?
That were all toddlers, and I'm trying to figure out how to jump a job that, I was making mid 6 figures in a sales career to go that was stable income to go nothing and go bet on myself.
Yep.
So that, and I think the portion of athletics and being able to drive and be coached and that mentality of hard work, like I'm gonna succeed no matter what, that's what allowed me to fall back and be comfortable in that real estate career.
Yeah.
And for me, a big portion of it was education. Like as an athlete, you're coached.
Yeah.
You'll have success if you can take what that coach is trying to teach you and go apply it. So, for me, it was dive into education, let me learn about it, and now go practice it. So I did, my day job, going out in sales and checking jobs and traveling around during the day, and then mixed in a couple flips and real estate deals while I still had my job. And then once I knew, the first 3 properties were selling and under contract, I'm like, wait a minute, this is gonna work.
Wait a second.
Yeah, why the hell didn't I do this sooner?
Right.
But at that time you don't know, and so my, advice or recommendations, do that when you're younger, before, wife, kids, bills, whatever that obligation is.
Yeah.
At a younger age, when that obligation or that what your
Responsibility.
monthly overhead and responsibilities is a lot smaller when you're 25 as opposed to 35.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think that's one of the things that I got, I will say, more lucky on, if that's the right wording there. Because I did it at a young age, and I was like, no, I am going to go figure this thing out, and I'm going to go all in at 22.
Yeah.
And if I fail, so what? Like, I'll move back to my parents' house. I don't care. I'll do it again, right?
Yeah.
As you get older, it's easy to say that when you're 22, right? It's hard to say when you're 42, married with 3 kids, whatever it may be, to go out and take that risk. But I would also go back and say, I still think it's worth it. It just needs to be more calculated, like what you were doing. You gave the formula. The formula was not you quit your job and went and did this. It's that you found that you kept your job because you had to have responsibilities, and you found this extra time and squeezed out extra time, whether it be cutting TV or cutting whatever it was, late nights after the kids were in bed, early mornings, and you found this time to kind of merge these two, career and new business together until eventually it was like, wait a second, I'm going to drop this and just go this way. That's kind of the formula, even if you're 42 though, right?
Sure. Yeah, that's exactly what we did. I mean, I had the benefit of, my wife at home supporting me.
Right.
And, actually pushing me in that direction and helping me with it. But she helped me realize that this is the path you're suited for. Like, you absolutely hate what you're doing.
Yeah.
Go do something you enjoy and make the most of it. And worst case, if I failed, like, my resume was pretty strong, I would have been able to go get another job. It was just overcoming that fear in my head, that fear or doubt that I was creating that 10 years ago I didn't have. So it was kind of, I worked myself down that path of almost golden handcuffs within my position.
Yeah.
But
I hate that word. I love and hate that word.
But it was, being able to go back to what had made me successful for a time prior to that. So
let me ask you this. I know you got boys right now. You got 3 boys?
Yeah, 3 boys.
3 boys. I know they're all playing different types of sports and so forth, obviously with your sports background. Random question, but I had this question asked to me a couple days ago, so I'm going to put on. I was on a show and someone asked me. I'm going to put it on you now. What's your thoughts on children? You got young teenagers, I think it is now.
10, 13, 14.
Playing sports and never losing.
I hate it.
All the
Absolutely hate it.
participation side of trophies
crap.
and so forth.
Yeah, I hate it.
Well, I have a strong opinion on this. And I came out on this show, not my show, it was on someone else's show, and I just went off. Part of life is learning how to lose like a winner, right? Like, there's a right way to lose, and you don't know how to lose you don't know how to lose as a winner and grow as a person if you do not freaking lose.
You have to experience adversity.
Yes.
100%.
Yes.
And as the path that we're down as a society, and we see it in young kids, we are trying to create adversity in our sons' lives.
Yeah.
Whether it's through sports, teaching them how to work at home, pushing them to fail so that they can learn how to overcome it at a young age, to be able to set them up for success later in life.
Yeah.
And hopefully, that they're figuring it out at a much younger age than I did.
Right.
But this path that we're down of we can't hurt anybody's feelings, you can't fail, we're raising a society of people, of weak-minded people.
For sure.
So I look at it as, all right, I'm going to teach my kids how to kick those kids' ass.
Right.
And if they don't, they're going to get beat up along the way, and we're going to make you stronger, and you're going to be better prepared for in life.
Because think about this, when you're an athlete and you went to a high level, think about those losses that you had in a game, in a championship game, in a regional game, whatever it was, right? And you had this tough loss, right? Not just a loss. I'm sure you can sit here and tell stories of freaking tough losses that you had to go through in a basketball game that sucked. But in that loss, when you're a competitive, driven person, is where everything comes back into you and figuring out, okay, what did I do wrong? What could I do better? Where is my weakness at? Where can I improve in this game that I lost at? Even though it's a team sport, to me, you always go internally first, right? Never team-wise first. But when you don't lose, how do you freaking grow?
You can't.
How do you grow?
You can't. It's
there is no internal investigation, if you will, because you're like, oh, well, I played, I didn't do great, but I still got this ice cream and trophy.
I remember the losses more than I do the wins.
Exactly.
Like I hate to lose actually more than I like to win. So I can go all the way back, high school, college, professionally, different countries where I was at. And like, I remember the losses. I remember how pissed off I was or, failing at that. And it translates over into my business and what I do today. In real estate, you can underwrite a deal and be as conservative as you think, but there's houses that we've lost over $250,000 on.
It hurts.
And
it hurts.
But that's the best learning lesson that you could ever have. And thank God that, real estate is the one of the careers, one of the only paths that I know that you can take one of those losses in a year and come out ahead, by the end of the year and flipping houses, building houses, whatever
Right.
that vehicle is. The profit margins are large enough that I can overcome that mistake. The worst thing would be if I didn't learn anything from that. So, that happened my third year in business, and I will never repeat that mistake ever again because, that's painful.
But
so,
I think I'm gonna go back to. I think part of that is because it was how you were brought up in understanding a loss and then understanding it's not the end of the world.
No.
The sun's gonna come up tomorrow.
Yeah.
It's just I gotta figure out how to not do this again. I crashed in 2008, 7-8 when the market crashed. I thought I was a real estate genius from like 2003 to 8, and then I realized I was a real estate moron. And lost everything. Like my wife left me and lost my house, my cars, ended up moving back to my parents' basement. It was full on gone. And people always will ask the question well, how did you keep going? And the answer is I don't know. It's just that's what you're supposed to go do, because I look back and say, okay, where did I go wrong at? In this loss, where did I go wrong at? I didn't have enough cash flow. Okay, I was too leveraged. And then I went and made the changes to go figure out how to go do that, and then went and played the game again, right? The other point that I think is so unique with people that I think are driven like you, when I study their success kind of habits, is it's one thing to learn in a loss, right? Because if you're a driven entrepreneur person, you will take a loss and you will figure that thing out. You will break it down over and over. But recently I was with someone talking about this, a super highly successful person. I'll give his name, Jesse Rodriguez, a good friend of mine. And he was talking about, Drew, it's not just about learning in your failures. He's like, what took his company from good to a great company was, he said, when I started learning what I did wrong in my wins. I thought, dude, that was freaking brilliant. Because naturally, I still do that. And I bet you, if you think about it, you do it. Even when you have a good house, even when you do this good deal, you'll find yourself thinking about what you did in it and what you could have maybe tweaked just a little bit to make it better.
I default to that automatically.
Automatically. This is what I'm saying. There's a part of entrepreneurs that are born this way because we don't even know about it. It's just that is our default mode. And this is my point of being born. Certain characteristics are born this way.
For an example, we just closed on our largest deal a week ago.
Okay.
Highest grossing, highest net profit we've had on the job. Everybody's, congratulations,
Yeah.
Me, automatically, I wish we would have done this better.
Guys,
we could have shaved some time off here if we would have done this.
You start looking at efficiencies and all that stuff, especially in real estate and timelines, right?
So we tend to break it down. I do it to a fault. I automatically default to almost, I don't want to call it negative, but how to analyze it and how to improve without really even thinking about it.
Yeah.
But that's how you continue to improve, do more deals, make more money, shave off, a couple weeks of holding time over the course of that 6-month project.
I'll give you an example. It's why you can do 50 houses in a year, while most flippers struggle to do 1 house in a year. It's because your brain naturally is breaking it down. Even in a loss, yes, but even in a win. Now, I'll tell you this. You tell me what you think on this. A struggle that I have, and I'm wondering if you have, is even when we win, our natural instinct is to go straight. Oh, let me break all this down. Okay, this was wrong. This was wrong. We actually just freaking won. We won. But our natural instinct, default mode, is to go here. And a thing that I struggle with for a long time, still struggle with, is not celebrating the win, though. And we just go straight into how can we make it better?
Yep.
And we don't ever, especially this affects me when I had a team around me. and they're like, "Oh, dude, we just crushed this, we did this, whatever it is," and I'm like, "How could we have done it better?"
Yeah.
And they're like, "Wait a second, I just worked this whole time." Do you struggle with that? Celebrating the wins?
100%.
Yeah.
It's on to the next one, and
Yeah.
I have to be conscious of it as we've built a team in our office. My prior tendency was to burn through people and drive them so hard that either they're out of there,
we should be,
or
like
we
the
have to fire
twins,
them.
like the tall and the short show. What was
Yeah.
that, Arnold Schwarzenegger and Danny DeVito?
DeVito, yeah.
I'll be Arnold Schwarzenegger. You be Danny DeVito. Because literally, like, it's the same exact thing. Like just burning people, right?
I have to consciously think about taking the time to go celebrate.
Yeah.
Whether it's, and we do it if we're conscious about it, like let's go have dinner with
Yeah, give me something small.
business
Doesn't matter.
partner,
Yeah.
wives, teams. Let's go, take our admin and project manager out to lunch. But what I'm finding it's difficult, I don't need that praise or approval from others. I'll just go do stuff.
Yeah.
And then we close on something. All right, awesome. What about these other 12 houses that we have going on? Now, let's go on these.
Yeah.
So I have to actually consciously take a step back and go, okay, I need to put praise on, tell people, job well done. Let's take some time. But, this one on last Friday, we've done nothing yet to celebrate that win. And it's part of business, but
And it's funny
it's
because
difficult for me to do that.
very difficult.
Without
But
being
I'm
conscious.
going to go back to sports for a second here because you played so many sports. As an athlete playing a sport, right, and we put so much time and practice and diets and sleep patterns, like all this stuff to become successful at the sport that we're playing, right? And at least for me, I had no problem being self-driven, unlimited, right? But when I got in the field and played the game, whatever it was, and did good, I craved the endorsement, if you will, maybe, from my coach.
Okay.
Right? Like, just, God, I wanted him to say, oh, great, whatever it was in baseball, right, that I was doing. But then when we turn around and I turn around and became the coach, if you will, of a team, I was still the driven side, but my team still needed the coach side, which is where I struggled at the most. Did you want the not like public praise? I didn't care if it was public. I actually preferred my coach to pull me to the side one-on-one and congratulate or endorse, say good what I did. Did you want that as an athlete?
No, I didn't need it.
You didn't want that side of it.
So
Okay, we're not twins.
the guy that met me in the hallway,
Okay.
his coaching hero was Bobby Knight.
Okay.
So he was, on you constantly.
Yeah, all over you.
Like just talking smack to you every day in practice. Why didn't you do this? Why come up and grab you? Like
Throw a chair at you.
That's what I responded to. I got,
Sure.
hey, you're 6'10", you're gonna be the only 6'10" kid in Iowa sitting on the bench. Like you're not good enough to play for me.
Right.
And that's what pushed my buttons and got me to respond. My second boss in business was kind of that way as well.
Okay.
So that's what gets me to respond, but I think I'm pretty unique and most people don't respond well to that type of pressure.
Yeah.
So over the last couple of years, I'm working on my leadership skills to become better at, that coach or cheerleader, hey, great job, but we got to do this as well. I also struggle with my kids with that as well. I'll be on them, and I got to take a step back and go, okay, relax a little bit. They're not necessarily going to be motivated by that, and if I'm not careful, I'll burn them out on whatever they're doing. So that's part of the thing that I'm working on individually, and like the personal development side is my leadership skills. Coaching people up. I can communicate my passion, my drive, my values, but not everybody's going to respond the way that I respond to things. So that's part of the natural progression. In my journey is to how to become a better leader, create a better team. Like as we talked about, trying to get out of the day-to-day business of operating my business. So it's functioning without me. But I have to be able to create that team, be able to become that leader that attracts the right people to continue to grow that business and that brand, so that I can step out of it. And that's honestly, it's been a weakness of mine. So
let me ask you this question. This is a great conversation. I feel like I'm actually in a therapy session right now. I'm gonna ask you this question. Being you're a visionary, right? So I'm a visionary type, right? I live like down the road. I suck at implementation. Like just the god awful worst.
The details.
At it, right? I'm big picture, vision, and once I like create the idea and concept of where we're going, I'm almost already done with it to a certain degree.
Sure.
I'm like, okay, we're good there. My question, going off the thing that you said right there, right? Maybe this is a question I'm going to question you in your question. Is that, I heard you talk about. I know you're a visionary, and you talk about working on your leadership, management, skill set, so that you can get out of the day-to-day operations and so forth, right? What do you think about not doing that? And my question to you is, you're great at what you're great at.
Okay.
What if the idea, I'm going to throw at you here, is what if what you should do is hire someone who's naturally just good at that right there. They're good at coaching up, compliments, building the team, implementation, etc., and allow you to do what you're great at, which is that entrepreneurial vision, creating the passion, the drive, and then bringing it back to the implementer versus you trying to be the implementer, which my guess is you're naturally not an implementer.
I'm not an implementer. I'm the visionary, strong visionary.
Okay.
But I will also just go do. So if I don't like the results that I'm getting, I just jump in there and go do it, which limits my growth.
Doesn't that hurt your growth?
Yeah, it's like catch-22, and it's been over this past year that's something I'm trying to correct and get out of. So, and the challenge is, within our business, we've created a business that's profitable. We make great money.
Right.
And it's, all right, how do we almost, tip that teeter-totter to the other direction? And it's kind of like, it's those minor tweaks that is where we're at in our business and personally as well. So we're actually looking for that person
because
there.
I know for me, that's where my biggest growth actually took place was when I almost got out of my own way. I had this belief, you tell me what you think of this one, like say a scale 1 to 10, every person has gifts, if you will, talents that they're born with, that they're just naturally better at certain things than other people, right? You're better at basketball than Sean, and I'm better than you at basketball. It's just part of, the game of what would happen if me and you played basketball, right? Like it would be an immediate, okay, I'll get off that. So we all have different talents, right? So like one talent that I suck at, let's just say, I'm gonna pick on myself here, is let's say bookkeeping, accounting. God, I hate it. I hate everything about it. I hate receipts. I hate spreadsheets. I love to use them. I hate to follow them though, right?
Sure.
So let's just say on a scale 1 to 10, I'm a 3 on bookkeeping, right? Obviously, you got to do it. You got a company. You got to organize it. You got to do it. But I just want nothing to do with it, right?
Yep.
If I really, really tried hard and put my mind to it and practiced and took classes and took accounting things and QuickBooks, let's say that in a year process of just straight dedication, I grew from a 3 to a 5 in accounting, right? Bookkeeping. I'm never going to be a 10. It's just impossible. But let's say that on vision, let's say that I'm an 8, right? And if I spent that same amount of time learning how to better cast my vision, put my vision there to the people, make sure that it's a clear vision for everybody to go down the path on it. Let's say that I spent the same amount of time, and that year I went from an 8 to a 10 on my strength. Okay. Well, how am I going to become a great company if I'm running my bookkeeping at a 5?
Can't.
You can't.
No.
That's my point. And so once I kind of realized, dude, this is what I'm good at. I got to really focus on this and just be great at this. And I'm going to hire someone who they're a 10 at bookkeeping or accounting, right? And I think that in the taking of your business is where it's coming back to this is I know we both work with Eddie, who's a great implementer, right? Yep. A great person that can take something and push it to results. Dude, I would say focus on being that visionary and grow, because I think you have these bigger
oh, for sure,
visions out there than what you're doing right now.
There's more to life than flipping houses.
But you keep going back to let me make sure that the deliveries are on time on a certain day, or the freaking dumpster shows up at 8 o'clock, because I'm so tired of dumpsters. That was a pet peeve of mine. All right, a demo day. Because if you focus on that vision, dude, I think you would scale out of there, explode your growth.
Yeah, and that's getting the business to go like this as opposed to.
Yeah, I totally agree. I totally agree on that on what you're saying there. Okay, I want to talk to you about kids.
Sure.
3 boys, go back to 3 boys. They're perhaps growing up a little bit different than you are right now, or you did as a kid.
100%.
Right?
Yeah.
You grew up single mom,
Uh-huh.
right? Only child.
Only
so
child,
just
single
immediately that's different because
It
now
was
you got you and your wife, and I think you guys said you were married for like 17 years. I'm not gonna put you on the spot, but that's what your wife told me when I asked her out when you were not here. And then it was like you got 3 boys, so there's no only child. But then you, from just gathering, you did not grow up with a lot of money.
No.
And now here they are watching dad build $1 million homes left and right, right? That's a tough road.
Oh, yeah.
Like, how do you keep that drive on them, the passion on them, when it's easy for you to, and you naturally, I think, want to fix the problem, and you know that a stroke of a check could fix this problem, right? Dude, what's your secrets right now?
So right now we try to create, again, you go back to sports, create the adversity for them.
Yeah.
And push them and push them. You know, we set limits within our house.
Yeah.
Like, you know, all the kids
Sure.
want to play video games. Well, in our house, you have to work out for video game time. So have a
great.
gym in our basement.
great.
You know, you want to play PlayStation for an hour? Did you work out? Well, no, I want to play PlayStation. Go work out for an hour.
Yeah.
Then you can play PlayStation.
Oh, I love it.
You know, it's trying to create, it's almost these false types of pressure or pushing them.
Yeah.
Because the number one question is, how do I create that drive and desire in a child that is, I say, unfortunately privileged? You know, yeah, there's some things that their life is easier than, say, mine was as a
Sure.
kid. Like, you know, I can remember, you know, when I was 7, 8 years old, we were having tuna fish sandwiches.
Right.
It wasn't because we liked tuna fish
Nope.
sandwiches. I just didn't know any better at that time. It was because, you know, single mom working at a grocery store.
Yeah.
That's what she had money for. So, you know, I look at my kids are spoiled when, oh, we're going to have steak tonight, or, you know, we're going to have some sushi, or they start asking, can we go have sushi? And I'm like, wait a minute, we're doing something wrong here.
Yeah.
So it's
when
again,
they only drink Voss water.
so yeah, exactly. So even within my peer circle and group of friends, it's like we didn't come from that life. So
Right.
how do we create those challenges? You know, and it's my wife and I working together, you know, and on them for, you know, average isn't good enough in our family. Like, we expect you to be great to the best of your ability. Like, you know, if our oldest son, straight A student, it comes easy for him.
Sure.
I'm like, no, that's great that you got straight A's. Did you work for those straight A's?
Right.
Well, in this class, no. All right, then you didn't do your best.
Right.
So in our house, it's no matter what, did you do your best? That's our conversation always.
Yeah.
You know, we can live with the results, but did you do your best? All right, if you didn't do your best, how do we correct that?
Right.
And that's it. In our household right now with teenage boys, that's the biggest struggle, and they're all slightly different.
Yeah.
You know, one's self-driven, one's really, really lazy, but he's more naturally gifted at certain things, you know, than the one that gets straight A's. And it's how do you challenge that? And you have to learn to deal with them and raise them differently, even though we're in the same house, similar ages, all boys. The parenting skills that we have to use with each one of them is 100% different. And we're looking at the whole why that I believe I'm doing what I'm doing right now is to teach my boys that there is a better way than what I was presented with. You know, I was presented with, that's the way it was at that point. But if I learn these skills that I've learned the last 10 years, you know, started at a younger age, again, before the responsibilities and challenges and different things, but that's trying to teach them those principles, values now. That's something that wasn't taught to me at an early age. That's something I had to kind of figure out myself as I went along, you know, and it all pushes back to, yeah, you have a good life now, but what happens when you're 18 and you're out of the house? You have to figure out how to go support yourself and chase your own dreams and make something out of yourself. So my wife and I, that's our number one focus within our house.
Do you create circumstances almost behind the scenes, if you will, like Wizard of Oz with you and your wife, where you're going to create a circumstance where they fail so that they can go through the failure process?
So I think we create the circumstances that we know they will struggle with.
Gotcha. And then
And hold them accountable
Okay.
to that. You know, like could be chores. It could be whatever it is, you know, in the house. For instance, yesterday, a kid, you know, having to change locks out of or batteries out of the door lock. I'm like, Logan, gotta go do this. I'm getting ready to go to the airport. I don't know how to do it. Figure it out, dude.
Figure it out.
Figure it out.
Yeah.
Like, here's a screwdriver. Go take it apart.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know what it needs. Well, take the cover off.
Start looking.
There's batteries. Well, I don't know what size battery. It'll tell you what size batteries when you take it off. Go find them. Figure it out.
Yeah.
Well, what if I can't make it work? Worst case, you broke the door lock. Who cares?
Right.
So we're constantly challenging them to do more and figure out really what the breaking point is. And we haven't got there with them.
Yeah.
So, you know, we're trying to pile up stuff and challenge them in different ways and educate them differently. And, you know, the school system is, my belief, is broken. So it's like, all right, we're not going to live our lives based on what somebody else tells us to do. We're going to go try to figure it out and create it ourselves, right or wrong. I think what we're doing is better than what somebody else says we should be doing.
Yeah.
So,
On the one more question on the children thing, growing up without money, like I said, I grew up without money, right?
Yeah.
And now they're growing up with money. Are there any certain principles strictly about money that you teach them maybe differently, that you could give the viewers as an example of something that you maybe have them do with money, or teach them with money, or show them with money, to try to have them learn about it versus just...
So in our house, they have to earn money. There's
Okay.
there's not an allowance. There's no gift. You have to directly earn the money. So for an example, on the side of our refrigerator is a list of about 20 different chores in the house.
Okay.
You know, dishes, garbage, picking up the backyard, pulling weeds, washing windows. All right. You want something, you want a Lego set or, you know, basketball cards like we were talking about
Yeah.
earlier. I'm not giving you the money for that.
Oh, you gotta give those back to me. I'm
there's-
sorry. I gave her. They talk about the son worked, got
Yeah.
money, went to go buy basketball cards, and it was like not even remotely
yeah,
close.
you couldn't get them. So
And I gave him some cards. So sorry, I probably ruined your example.
no, we'll figure it out.
Make him earn it anyways.
It wasn't me. I didn't give them to him. You gave them to him. So, you know, within our house, there's a list and there's a pay rate on next to that list.
Okay.
You want money? Here's how you go get it. Well, I need it this week. Well, then there's an opportunity for you to go, you know, do chores
it.
for 2 or 3 hours a day.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
we're taking that. The next level is to get them to understand that right now it's taxes. They went
Okay.
to a store the other day to buy something, and they were trying to split the Millennium Falcon Lego set. It's like
Okay,
$150.
Sure.
They get to the register, they've got $150. They didn't include sales tax.
Yeah.
The easy thing to do would have been for my wife to give them $20 and, you know, here,
Walk out the
go
store.
take care of it. And she's, nope.
Try
So
to
they
love
had
that.
to walk. They had to walk up, put it back on the shelf,
Yeah.
and now figure out a way to go earn it. So
Yeah.
my youngest son right now is obsessed with how he's earning money to go buy the Millennium Falcon.
Right.
So the next step, you know, now they're learning sales tax. Now it's okay. Now we got to learn to save a portion of what we make. And right now that's the biggest struggle. They see it, you know, I want this, I'm going to do this. I went and made this money. And then it's how to keep them motivated doing things when there's something that they don't want to buy. And so, you know, they're still little, but it's trying to teach them the principles that we learned later in life, the things that aren't taught in school.
Right.
You know, and to my knowledge, none of their friends' parents are talking about that. We get that. Well, you know, Johnny doesn't have to do so and so. If he wants to go play video games, he can just go play video games. And I'm like, oh, okay,
Good
You
for
know,
Johnny.
We're not raising you as Johnny.
Right.
We want better for you. So,
Yeah. Let me ask you this question. I love asking this question. I started asking this one recently. I stole it from Elon Musk, just FYI. I was reading some stuff on him, and it's a question he always asks people. And I'm going to ask you this question. It's twofold, and it is, in your business that you currently have right now, what is the biggest problem that you feel like you have solved in your business? So there's all these problems. What's the biggest one that you just sticks on your brain of, this is a problem that I solved in my business? And part two of it is, how did you solve that massive problem that was in your business?
So for us, it was, you know, like I said, 6-8 months ago. COVID, we didn't know what was going to happen. In Colorado, they shut down the real estate market as far as showings went.
Yeah, I remember that.
We were able to keep building houses. Construction was considered essential.
Right.
So it really forced us into what has limited our growth as a business is we didn't have the processes and systems on paper.
Okay.
had them in our head.
Sure.
I can go out and build a house, I can flip a house, I can teach people how to do it.
Right.
But all the other things that go along with it weren't down and systematized within our business.
Right.
So we spent, 6 months diving in and putting as much as we can on paper so that the goal is that that business will operate without us. Last year we went into the Kansas City market. Our goal is to grow that and be able to almost operate kind of the fix and flipper construction, if you will, as like a franchise model.
Sure.
So we're trying to put, standard operating procedures in place. And again, natural default is I'll just go do. Instead of training somebody how to do it, hiring, I'll just go do it.
Sure.
Well, it's great. We're making great money, but we've reached to a point where we can't grow anymore without those people in place. So, twofold, it's procedures, processes, and hiring behind it. This year we're trying to grow our company from a staff of 4 to a staff of 10 by the end of the year. Mm-hmm. But we had to take a step back and start putting all that stuff on paper first, or in a program and on a computer, so that when we do hire, we can train people the proper way. So
the biggest problem that you were facing was, if I summed it up, would it be like not being able to properly scale?
Right. We hit a threshold where our goal has always been, let's double our business
Sure.
each and every year. Well, it gets to be a point where you can't do that anymore without people to be there to support it.
Right.
And we got so busy in the day-to-day activity of the business that we just continued to do and didn't document.
Yeah.
So, my business partner and I, we worked more during the shutdown than we ever had before. Mm-hmm. So like life slowed down, things slowed down. There weren't as many responsibilities to take care of outside of work.
Sure.
So we kind of just doubled down, made sure we went to the office every day. We focused on, let's get this stuff down so that when things open back up, we're in a better position. And we more than tripled our net profit last year as a direct result of doubling down and putting the time into it, rather than, again, go back to, you can either stop and let your mistakes cripple you.
Yeah.
You can learn from them and grow. So that's what we focused last year on.
So the problem was being able to scale, and the solution to that problem was you guys breaking it down and documenting all the steps and processes.
Each and every part of the business.
You had them up here.
Yeah.
You know how to do them. Mm-hmm. But if you went and hired someone and said, hey, go do this, go whatever that task was, there was nothing for them to go follow or go do.
We would have to take, it would take my time or my partner's time to stop what we were doing for, that week, 2 weeks, 3, whatever it may be.
Right.
We'd have to stop and go teach that person.
Right. So
then, everything, our daily responsibilities over here weren't getting done, or getting done half-assed. Mm-hmm. And then if what would happen is, project manager, I fire them or they leave, mm-hmm. I've got to step right back into that role. And when that new person comes in, again, it's me for 2-3 weeks with them, as opposed to a couple days, and here's the operating manual for your job.
Yeah.
Here's how you run a job. Here's who you call. Here's the list of subcontractors. Here's all of this step by step. To where our new guy we just hired 3 weeks ago, and I've spent 2 days in the field with him. Mm-hmm. Because we put that stuff in place. But it took us almost backing up a little bit.
Sure.
And getting that place, and not, even though we grew last year, we weren't really focused on growing. Right. It just kind of took care of itself as we dove into these areas and figured out these weaknesses. And the thing with real estate, or flipping houses or building, these expensive multi-million-dollar homes, the profit margin is so great on the backside, it actually can cover quite a bit of mistakes. Mm-hmm. But then when you dive into that job and look back at it, and you're like, well, if I shaved 3 weeks off of construction, that's 3 weeks of holding time on $1 million loan. Mm-hmm. Quite a bit of money. Yeah. We threw away material here, or we didn't do things exactly as we could have, but at the end of the job we made a bunch of money. So it kind of hides all those mistakes. Yeah. So it's taking a step back and figuring out how to dial those little small things in, so that we can run and scale.
And scale now you go
a higher level.
Yep. It opens the door for more growth.
Yep.
By taking a step backwards and then breaking all of it down, getting out of your head, which most entrepreneurs run it that way, right? Like it's in our head. We can tell you exactly how to go do it, but you hire that person, and then, 4 months later, if that person leaves, you're literally right back.
You go back, and that's what we've
training process again, right?
For 3 years we've been playing that game, and it got to be where this is enough.
As you scale and grow, you got more and more staff, which means it's more and more trainings that you're doing versus again focusing on what you're great at, which is maybe in your case vision. Okay, let me ask you the last question. I'm gonna go to the money is side of it. So we're gonna break down money is blank to you. You put on whatever answer you want, 2, 3, 4 words, 1 word, it doesn't matter, and you're gonna sign it right here behind it. Also, on your social media, your personal social media, it's your name at Adam, but you have your initial.
Correct. Middle initial C.
C. Adam C. McCanna.
Correct.
Is your handle for Facebook and Instagram.
Correct.
If anyone wants to follow you,
jump on there.
Do you post a lot on them?
Not as much as I should. Trying to get better at it. I've gone through phases where daily, or again, it comes and goes. Actually, right now, it's one of the priorities in my life and my business is to post on there, do more, kind of document what I'm doing, both business, professionally, and in personal life. So, like we talked about, trying to build a brand.
The personal brand.
That's where people can get a hold of me.
Adam C.
McCanna
is your handle for Facebook and Instagram.
Yep.
If you go there. So let's fill this out right here. You sign it right here, and then me and you will talk about what money is to you. Take the Sharpie there. Another lefty, man.
You a lefty as well?
No. My last guess was a lefty. It's like 2 in a row. You shoot left-handed too?
So depending on what I'm shooting, it's crazy. I write left-handed.
Okay.
I shoot I shoot a basketball left-handed. I shoot a gun left-handed. Everything else is right.
Weird.
I throw, jump. I'm right-hand dominant. Or
Interesting.
Halfway. I guess you'd say ambidextrous.
Ambidextrous, yeah. My favorite part of the show here. So. Sharpie. Oh, there we go. All right, let me see. All right, your answer. Here we go. Money is the engine. Money is the engine. All right, let's break it down. It's a great freaking word of what money is, but tell me what it means that to you. What does it mean?
So for me, I mean, it's the engine to give us the life that we want. So not only for ourselves, but as well as to have an impact on others.
Yeah.
So, obviously at the base of it, we need money to take care of our basic needs.
Right.
But you can only make so much money, and eventually your basic needs are taken care of. You can only, you can keep buying a nicer car, but at the end of the day, that's not going to bring you joy, or it's going to bring you a certain level, but truly, you got to get to a point that you can have an impact on others, be able to, create a legacy and do good in the world. You can't do much good if you don't have the money.
Yeah.
So for me, it's the engine or the vehicle to greatness and leaving a legacy. So not only for myself, my family, kids, but eventually to be able to do some other things in life on a charitable side.
Philanthropic
Something
concept.
like
Yeah, money is the engine is a great freaking concept because it is what's driving. It's what's driving the vehicle, if you will. Meaning, let's just call for the sake of this illustration, the vehicle, the family that you're trying to provide and take care of. Right. Money's the engine that is driving that thing right there. Right. Meaning, if something bad does happen, there is a great peace of mind knowing that you can write a check or wire the money to go fix this massive problem.
Right.
It is possible. And to always think about, it's funny, I don't know, I have any idea if you're religious or not, but I always think about the verse in the Bible talking about, it's in Ecclesiastes, and it talks about money answereth all things. Have you ever seen it or heard it before? But I just find it ironic because in religion so much we talk about money's the root of all evil.
Yeah.
Right, it's like just pounded in our heads, right? I don't know if you grew up religious or not, but it was just like the pounded. It was almost like if you could be super poor, you were like more religious, like better. But then there's another verse in Ecclesiastes that literally talks about money answereth all things.
Okay.
And I think it's a unique talking about it, like kind of what you were saying there, like having that money to be able to solve problems. And problems being, they could be something horrible has happened and someone's in the hospital, but you can solve the problem. But also just the day-to-day lifestyle that you provide, and then it goes past that into what you can do afterwards. Like there's only so much money that you can, I mean, how many cars do you really need, right?
Yeah.
And then it gets into the fun stuff, which is like, how do you create impact now? How do you create influence with the money that you have that does good even after you're long dead and gone into it? And money's that engine that drives that car, right? A car without an engine is freaking worthless, right? It's just a plastic shell, if you will, especially today's cars. Yeah. It's a plastic shell. The engine is what's going to make that thing go. The money's going to make that thing go and solve different problems that come about or create good things that come about as well.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, the impact that you can have as a person on others is very, very limited if you don't have the money to go out and be able to do that.
Yeah.
So create money and go do good with it.
It's funny because it's like people talk about philanthropy all the time, and matter of fact, I'm going to a dinner tonight, a party, like a dinner party tonight about Operation Underground Railroad. Have you heard of it or not? With Tim Ballard. He's releasing a new movie with Jim. I can't think of this guy's. I can't remember say his last name right. Caviezel. Played the guy that played Passion of Christ, Frequency. Anyways, we're doing a private showing tonight on the movie and so forth in this philanthropy thing where it's a dinner for it or whatever. But again, it's like, you know what will help Operation Railroad save children from sex trafficking? Money. It will guarantee you. Guarantee you, it takes money.
Yes.
You want to stop hunger in the world? No problem. Do you know what's going to take you?
Yeah, you
It's
gotta have
going to
money.
take you money, right? Like you could go through all these problems. You want to get water to all the world? No problem. But you're going to need? You're going to need money, right? And I think it's one of those things that sometimes we avoid the conversation about it, but it's tied into everything we do. Everything we do is tied somehow directly back into money. Yeah. So the more that we understand it, the more that we know it, the more that we are open about it, the more that we talk about it, the more that we have of it, the more that we can do in the world, way past us, ourselves in general. Inside of it, awesome, great interview, man. I love talking to you. I love the sports illustrations going back and forth with sports and business because I think there's so much direct correlation 100%. Between those two things, right? Like you can start breaking down sports, and you have to have a coach, and then there's trainers, and then there's trainers inside of the teams, and then there's a team aspect. Like there's so many things that tie into sports and business.
There's no better teacher.
And you have the wins, you have the losses until we block the losses, and then we create. Whatever, never mind. You get my point. Adam, man, it's been great having this show. Again, you guys can follow him at Adam C. McCanna at Instagram or Facebook. Adam, I'd love to talk more about you and to rip some more cards with you as well. And maybe when you open those cards with your kids, shoot me a video, man.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
I like to see if they get any good cards in there. I think they're all basketball fans, so hopefully they get some good cards in there. You guys, appreciate watching the Money Is Show this week. You guys follow us next week for the next Money Is Show.